Live again. It's Matt Bailey here, the National Ambassador for the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. Thank you for joining me. I'm going live every single day at 8 p.m. right here on Instagram. Just Dramming joined. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Always a pleasure. Jerry, good to see you again. Always a pleasure. Jez Soj joined. Thank you for joining. Good to see you guys. Big wave to you guys. Thank you so much for joining. Whiskey Juzmo, thanks for joining. Tonight's live stream is we're going to talk a bit about glassware. Blackgate, Brian, Janice, is that you behind there? I hope it is. Good to see you. Matthew Blatchford, Jay Davis, as a Finn, Aaron, good to see you. Jamie Poos, good to see you. Thanks all for joining in. It's 8 p.m. therefore it's the live stream again. Out of the Whiskey office, out of Whiskey HQ here again. The layout of the office, I'll give you a tour another time. G'day. Hot dog. Good to see you. I won't get into too much detail. I will give you a tour of this office at some point, actually. It's a bit ridiculous at the moment. It is a total bomb site at the moment. I still haven't fully unpacked from Whiskey Fair. So there's boxes on this side of the room, boxes everywhere. And on that side of the room, whiskey everywhere. And it's a bit out of hand at the moment. And behind me is the only sort of part that looks like a normal sort of operating office at the moment, even though it's covered in corks and bottles above me. Damien, I keep saying Adrian, sorry. God, I've got a friend of mine who's in Melbourne, whose name is Damien, has a very similar username on Instagram to you. And that's why I keep doing that. And from a distance, because I'm using my phone. Someone asked me earlier today, what are you broadcasting to? Your computer? Is this where my computer is? Am I broadcasting through my computer webcam? No, I'm not. I'm broadcasting straight to my phone. It's literally my iPhone right there on a bracket, on a mount. Anyway, Jay Hodes, good to see you. Tonight we're going to talk about glassware. Always a controversial topic, and always one that encourages me smashing glasses on camera, which is always fun. In front of me, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 different glasses. Luke Mackey, good to see you. Thanks for joining. Matt Music, good. Thanks for joining. In front of me is 8 different types of glassware that is commonly used for drinking and enjoying whiskey. Is that overkill? Is it weird that I own 13 different types of glassware? Probably not in my profession. That doesn't include water carafes either, like things like that look like this, as well to the mix, but which I've got 5 or 6 different designs. I'm a sucker for glassware. Luke, good to see you. I'm a sucker for glassware. I'm a sucker for exploring different types of whiskey glassware. And I don't want to go into too much detail tonight because it's I like to keep these sessions a bit brief, keep them around 20 minutes maximum. You can tune in, tune out, I don't mind. I love that you're here though. Hey Luke, good to see you. So I'm going to try and say hello to people at the same time. And I'm trying to do that. Multitasking here. See if this works. Hey, look at that worked. Okay. So, glassware, where was I? Okay, so the one I'm probably most familiar with and you're probably familiar with as a society member is our Society Coppeter. We sell these online. They're $20, I think. They're an award-winning glass for nosing and appreciating whiskey. And whilst I'm doing this, actually, I'm going to pour a bit of whiskey into it. So we can have a bit of a chat about whiskey whilst I'm going here. Okay. Ooh, yeah. That's a fun whiskey. I'll tell you what that is in a minute. But let's talk glassware for a minute. Different glassware provides a different context to whiskey you're drinking. And a different glass... I just did the Archer tasting at Whiskey and Helmet. Awesome. Yeah, I saw Nick was hosting that tonight. Nick, was Nick hosting? I think Nick was hosting. First of all, Nick's one of the loveliest people working in the trade. He's one of the hardest working ambassadors I know, honestly. He's so fantastic. First try, yeah. Awesome. Boss Gallon, thanks for joining. Raymond, good. Thanks. Good to see you. Seamus, I know you're back there. I know you are. I think I saw you join. Nick's one of the most fantastic ambassadors working in the category, and really so passionate about Archie Rose. He's been with Archie Rose the day after they started, pretty much. But he was based out of Melbourne, and now he's moving to Sydney. I don't know if that's common knowledge yet, but he's moving to Sydney. He's taken on the national brand ambassador role for Archie Rose. And I wrote about it already with Whiskey Ardent. So yes, that's a cool role for him. Yeah, very enthusiastic and passionate, and such a lovely chap. Okay, let's talk about glassware for a second. The one you're most familiar with is the Society Copita. He mentioned his move tonight. Okay, there you go. Thanks, Barley Brains. Aw, it wouldn't be right here without you. Killing it as always. Love you to bits, mate. I think it's killing it as usual. Sorry, there's a bit of gunk on my phone screen. I can't see the last word in those sentences. That's how organised I am tonight. Let's explore them. Ready? Society Copita. That's what we promote. We love that as a nose. It's a very good for nosing and appreciating whiskey. I'll concede it's not the best whiskey drinking glass. So let's just put that out there. I think it's a very nice whiskey drinking glass for casual drinking sometimes. Oh, sorry, I should say careful and considered drinking. But there's others out there. Oh, Rowan, good to see you. I hope you're well. Ben, is that you behind the alliance there? Good to see you, mate. Thanks for joining in. Throwing a few waves. True North, good to see you, Rowan. Sally, good to see you. Some of my regulars are showing up. There we have a standard Copita, as it's called, or Copita, if your name's Richard Patterson. Copitas are a nice glass. It's a variation on the XL5, for those who are nerding out. Good to see you, mate. Daily live stream here, Ben. I don't know if you've tuned in yet. Just for those who are wondering at home, Single Malt Alliance, who's now just tuned in, is Ben Dietrich. I don't know if you like that being connected at all, but Ben runs the Single Malt Alliance Instagram, fantastic Instagrammer, and also works for us in SMWS USA branch. Blech, what a mouthful. Ben, you know what, mate? I'm already looking forward to May next year. I don't know if nothing's been announced yet, but fingers crossed. Hey, so that's the Copita. That's the Society glass. That's a Copita. You can see the size difference there. It's almost twice the height. Then we've got our Society SCS glass. That's our single cask spirits glass. That's a really good whiskey uncovered. Oh, mate, good to see you, Mr. Whisker. Always love it. That's our SCS glass. That's for if you're enjoying an Armagnac. That might be something that you go for. Let's move them aside. Now have a look at this. Have a look at this weird glass. Okay, it's a very strange shape. It's almost like a bowl with a tulip. These are fantastic for old school whiskies. If someone presents me an opportunity to drink something like a 1940s, 1950s, 1960s blended whiskey, where they're delicate, they're old, they're 40% or even sometimes lower, to get a lot out of the whiskey, I like to use a big, bold, fine lip on this one. And that's a really lovely kind of glass to use on that one. The Never Fail, the one that everyone knows. Oh, I love the SCS glass too as well, Single Malt Alliance. Love them. Really lovely sort of profile to it. Really kind of like good balance, good weight to it as well. Yeah, no, it is a good nosing glass. It's very excellent nosing glass. I mean, let's have a size comparison here. We're pushed. That's the tallest one I own. There you go. That's what we're talking about here in difference of size between a Society Copita and a really old school nosing glass. But I do like experimenting with glassware and trying whiskies in different glasses. And then we've got the XL5 and our SCS glass, our single cask spirits glass. The Never Fail. The Never Fail. It's not actually called Never Fail. It's called Glencairn. It's probably the most known whiskey glass. It was developed in conjunction with David Stewart from Balvenie, who was at the time the malt master for Balvenie. I think he's in retirement planning. I don't know where he is at the moment, but he's sort of handing the reins over to Gemma Patterson over at Balvenie. But he was responsible for the design and aspect of this Glencairn. The idea behind the Glencairn is that it's a good nosing and drinking glass, and it's got a nice heavy base on it, so it almost acts like a fancy tumbler. I don't like Glencairns as much as I used to. I still think they're very good. I think they're very versatile, and they're sort of like, they never fail. If there's no other glass available, the Glencairn's the one to go. But in terms of a nosing glass, I find they're a bit diffuse. But I like them, I don't love them. Then there's a mini Glencairn. There you go. That's a Lafroig Distillers Wares one. That's a distiller's nosing glass. Gavin Hepper, good to see you. That's a distiller's nosing glass. That's a distiller's glass. The distillers use those glasses traditionally to test the spirit, often new make and things out of that. So that's like just a variation of the Glencairn. Big shout out to Overeem for that glass. A shout out to Lafroig for me buying that glass, I guess, or whatever, years ago. There's a slightly smaller variation on the it's a smaller variation on the Copita. We use these quite commonly at our society events. They're nice concentrated nose, a nice sort of a nice tulip base. I kind of like these. They're really good for sort of analysis and drinking of whiskey. I've gone through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 glasses now. We're getting there. There you go. A sherry glass right there. Yeah, sherry glass. That's a good point. A good sherry glass, exactly. The next one is courtesy of our friends over at Ardbeg. They have these ones at their events. It's like a mini. It's like a Glencairn with a stem. It's kind of almost the same size as a Glencairn, a little bit smaller. Glencairn with a stem. Very easy drinking. Now, there's a spey glass. Let's have a look at the spey glass here for a second. Cradle glass, Luke Mackey, cradle glass. I don't own one. I would love to try one. I've never had one. I'm happy to feature it on my Instagram. Not asking for a freebie. I should definitely get one though. I should definitely purchase one. I haven't gone and got one yet. There's a couple of glasses I don't own. I'll be honest. I'm looking up right now in the cupboard over there. There's another 60 different glasses. I don't have a cradle glass yet. I'm really keen to try it though. Backwards Distilling Co. Oh, guys, I was talking to Brooke and Jules at Whiskey and Hamlin about you guys just the other day. I hope everything's well. I'd love to meet you guys properly and share a dram with you soon. Rain Farmer, thanks for joining. Good to see you. That's a spey glass. So that's one of my favourite casual drinking glasses. It's got a bit of a tulip, bit of a closeness on the nose there, as you can see. It's hot dog. Ooh, I despise the Norland glass. There, I said it. I don't like it. I think it's cool on paper, not in practice. If that makes sense. I think the Norland's the lip on it's just so thick. The lip on the actual glass is like this. It's like this thick sort of rim on it that tastes plasticky or something. It's got like it tastes like it feels very cheap. It feels like a very cheap glass, and I don't mean to sound negative about anyone's brand or glass. I don't care, but I don't like it. It's not my favorite drinking glass. I do have one. I didn't even bring it out. There you go. The neat glass. Jay Davis, do you mean the Canadian one? The neat, is that the one that sort of goes like bowl or then up like that? Impossible to drink out of. If that's the one you're thinking of, there's a Canadian neat glass. I don't like it. Yeah. It's not cool anywhere. Yeah. Look, so spey glass is one that I sometimes like for drinking with friends. It's not a big glass. I think it's 85 mils or something you can fit in there, if you want a big dram, that is. And that's a Shivers branded one. I must have stolen that from some Shivers event many years ago. I'm very sorry. Thank you, Shivers Regal and the Pernod Ricard team, for your $1.85 worth of promo gear. I really appreciate that. They're cheap, they're fun, they're good at events. They're about the same size as the distiller's glass, but not Glencairn shaped. We're heading into the last ones here. Before I go, I'm going to have a look at the comments here. Norman is gimmick, really. The whiskey wants to spill out the sides of your mouth when you go to sip. Yeah, Jay Hodes, I just didn't like it. I found like it was too much effort to drink out of. I want a glass that... I split my glasses into 3 categories. Let's just go over them real quick. One is proper, like, professional nosing and assessment of whiskey. Now, for that, I would use something like this. This is a Bormioli. I'd use something like our Society Copita, or I'd use something like even the small XL5, the mini XL5. That's their smaller format. They're concentrated. They're good for nosing. They're good for writing tasting notes and doing work on. The second category of glass is a bit more casual. Things like this and things like this, they're fun. They're not as good for nosing and assessing a whiskey, but they're good to drink out of. They're really good to drink out of. And the third category is what I call this last one, which I'll go over in just a moment, is when you find a tumbler that you particularly like. There's nothing wrong with drinking whiskey out of a tumbler. If anyone tells you that, they're being overly snobbish. And even me, as an ambassador of a single cask whiskey company, will not agree with you on that. However, there's a couple of tumblers that I sometimes use. This one comes in a tube. Many of you will know the Denver and Liley already. It's been out for a few years now. This is their normal whiskey glass from 2015, batch 6. That one's been around a 4-ish years now. It's a nice glass. I'll be honest. They've done a marvelous job of constructing this. I think it's a really well put together glass. It is one of my favorites for at home. And let's say I'm at home and I want to pour a biggie and I want to sit down and enjoy a bit of a bit of whiskey at home without assessing it, without writing tasting notes. It's just me sitting at home enjoying whiskey. Georgia, good to see you. Jimmy, good to see you. Thanks for joining. Good to see you in the stream. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that's the third category glass, is when you find a nice tumbler. These are my two favorites in my house, in my office here. The Denver and Liley. I don't really care for the tube, but it keeps it organized on the shelf. So maybe I do care for the tube. And I've got a Bemore glass here. It's a proper tumbler-sized glass, as you can see. My hand, normal-sized hands, I guess, but like it's a tumbler, but it's got a nice tulip to it. It's got a nice sort of like a tulip shape, so you can fill it up about halfway with a good chunk of whiskey, and you can still get a bit of nose out of it, but it's a really good sort of late night, one last dram, pour it in the tumbler. I'm not looking to assess that whiskey. I'm looking to enjoy it. Right now, I've got, as I said, now 15-ish glasses in front of me on the table here. That's a quick assessment of running through. What's your preferred water to use with a single malt, if at all? Rain Farmer, very cool question. Honestly, I have this theory that with the exception of Adelaide, sorry Adelaideans, with the exception of Adelaide, tap water in Australia, especially Melbourne, Sydney tap water, is really good. I have tried a few different waters before, and they sometimes do add to the experience, but it's really, we're talking 0.001% difference in some cases. Thanks, Luke. Good to see you. By the way, for those who are tuned in right now, don't go anywhere. I've got something for you. This is a book called The World Atlas of Whiskey, written by Dave Broom. It's an awesome book. It's a newish book as well. Hey, lucky you. So this was, I got to actually check the publishing date. I should have researched this before I pressed go on live here, really. Is there a published date on this? 2014. Sorry, 2014. It's a couple of years old. So, The World Atlas of Whiskey. This talks, you can learn, it's a hardcover book. It's got all these stats about whiskey in it. I'm not plugging this. I don't really plug stuff on this. I'm giving this away. I've got a copy in the office that has someone's name on it. How to win this copy of... Whoa, I'm going to smash glasses if I keep flicking this book around. How to win a copy of this book is literally just DM me your best question and I'll answer it. The best question that gets answered on the channel tomorrow night... Let's do it tomorrow night. The best question that gets answered on the channel tomorrow night takes this... I'll send them this book. Completely free. It's about $75 when it came out. More than 200 distilleries and 750 whiskies tasted. I'm giving that book away. You know what? DM me or ask me a cool question in tomorrow's video, and I'll give you that book. Someone will win it. Rain Farmer. It's funny that you're asking about water and your name is Rain Farmer. There you go. So that's all I want to talk about tonight is 3 categories of glassware. The glassware you like to nose and assess and write tasting notes on. That'd be a glass like this for me. It'd be a glass like this. There'd be a couple of others in here. Then find some glassware that you, what causes the marzipan flavour in whiskey? Oh, wow. What causes many flavours in whiskey, Kathleen? You would know probably about as much of that as I would. Really, I mean, it's marzipan notes. I mean... You mean out of a bourbon barrel or a sherry barrel or a sherry cask or a wine cask or something? You know what? That's a good question. You're in the running. There we go. I'm going to have to research that one. I'm sure there's some sort of ethanolic compound that is the exact answer, the scientific answer, which a port. Whiskey shouldn't be matured in port casks. Someone's going to get angry at that one, but I'm only half taking the piss. Tonight's dram is 135.5. Intriguing, captivating, fascinating. This one came out a long time ago. About a year ago. Not that long. A year ago. It's a 17-year-old from a second fill ex-bourbon. 17 years old, spicy and dry. From one of my favourite distilleries. Distillery 135. Distillery 135 is Loch Lomond. We don't talk to distillery names. And as I can see, SMWS UK just joined. I'm especially not going to talk about that. No, I'm messing with you. But this is an experiment in finding what glassware works for different things. And I'm going to do an experiment right now. Ready? I'm doing this just for you just on Instagram. My favorite nosing and note-taking whiskey into one of my favorite tumblers. See, that's about what I'd pour into the tumbler anyway. A little bit more, maybe. The nose has completely vanished. There is no nose in this whiskey anymore. But it's easy and fun to drink. And that's kind of what it's about. And that's kind of what it's about is finding something that's easy, fun to drink, has a complexity, has something where you can knock it back sometimes and go, you know what, this is delicious. And finding that balance of finding the right glassware. And that's what, to those who have just joined in, Jack Boyd, traveling, Robbie, Jack, that's what we've been talking about. He's talking about whiskey glassware and finding the right glassware for the right whiskey, but more so finding the right glassware for the right occasion. When do you want to nose and appreciate a whiskey? When do you want to just sit down and enjoy it? When do you want to talk about it? When do you want to share it with friends? 3 categories. I'm going to keep drinking this 135.5. It came out a little while ago with the coda like that. I think they're up to .14 or something now. So about 9 casks ago. That's a lovely cask. I'm going to bid you farewell for Whiskey Wednesdays today. Just a couple of little announcements. You'll catch me on an interview with Whiskey Pete that I just did this morning on his channel, I think as early as tomorrow or the day after. You'll see it. Got to all take care, mate. Good to see Jimmy. And thank you so much for joining in. Thanks for seeing me talk about glassware. It's pretty nerdy stuff, but it's really important because it's your whiskey. Get the most out of it. I'm quite tired. I've had a monster of a day, which I always do. I always do this to myself. I'm stretching myself thin. Love you and leave you. I'll see you tomorrow night. Thanks for joining.